Coming up, I do weird stuff and noises with some wheels. I lose scissors.
The scissors!
We finally go for a proper drive. And Alcantara goodness ends up on the headliner. Welcome back to part 5 of Project Dubai. We are slowly entering into the final stages with the restoration of the 7 series. Now that it's mechanically sorted and runs beautifully, we can move on to the looks department. Ever since doing the suspension work in part 2, I was unhappy with how the car sits. It's far too high in the front and far too low in the rear, so let's do something about that. The rear springs are obviously not coping well with the weight of this car, so I'm using BMW parts for rough road package that are specifically made to raise the car. An adapter and shock mount with a longer studs to accommodate it. I'm not going to show the whole process of rear shock removal, for that you can go back to part 2, but I just replaced the shock mount and placed the adapter on top. I do want to show my new brilliant spring compressor kit. Removing springs has never been so easy, fast and safe. Big thumbs up for this kit. And this is how the rear sits now. Perfect.
Like that.
I'm using Eibach 30mm lowering springs to lower the front. Done.
Nice.
Here's before and after. Exactly what I was hoping for. Not too low, just nice and even all around. I was afraid how lowering springs in the front would affect the ride, but it rides even better now. The front doesn't feel floaty anymore and the ride is still comfortable, which is the most important aspect to me in the end. The rear parcel shelf was faded and looking purple, so I decided to restore it back to black with this fabric spray. Did the same with the electric rear sunshade. Pretty good results. Though I went back and gave the parcel shelf another coat to match better.
Alright, good.
The rear subwoofers were replaced at some point, but they didn't sound that great, so I bought replacement ones.
Professional job. As always. Like that. Done.
Many of you noticed in the previous episode that the front speakers are shot. I also noticed it when I was editing that video, but I missed them when I had the door panels off. So now I'm going back to replace them.
Here's our blown speaker that I missed last time. I think it'll be easier if I remove the whole thing. Here's our replacement speakers. Hopefully they'll fit in there, but we're about to find out. Fairly similar. The height is the same, so this should work. Oh man, even the holes are lining up. This is turning out to be easier than I was expecting. So this one is plus, This one is minus. Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna call it fine. That's it.
If you watched the very first video of Project Dubai, then you might remember that the headliner has seen better days. It's time to address that. I'm removing all of the pillars and headliner to wrap them in Alcantara. I've done this job on my M5 last year and it was my first time doing it, and it turned out good but not perfect. This was a big learning point and I was pretty positive I can do better this time. Before getting into this, I just want to point out that I am not a professional, so take everything that I do and say with a grain of salt. Having said that, I learned 3 things that are absolutely needed to get this done properly. First is the material. I'm using original Alcantara with 1mm foam and fabric laminated backing. Alcantara doesn't stretch, but this one is designed for this type of work in mind, and you can shape it around the crevice of the headliner board. The quality of this material is top notch and the supplier is a really nice fella. I'll leave his info in the description. Second is the glue. We need something that's long lasting and has instant high strength bond so that the fabric can't move when you press it onto the surface. The commonly used spray can glue is not something you want to use here as it won't last. And this is where technical 2-component glue rocks. They didn't sponsor this video or provided the material. I bought this with my own money and I can frankly say that this is the best glue for this job. Having tried both types of their glue, I highly recommend going with the sprayable one as it's much easier and faster to work with. I'll explain how it works once we get into it. And C, the laborious task of thoroughly cleaning and preparing the surface.
To remove the metal sunroof, you need to lower it in the rear for about 4mm and then go inside and you will be able to slide this back. And then you get access to the screws. Now I'm gonna lift that up.
I'll completely remove the sunroof lid last. For now I just loosened it in order to access headliner screws in the back.
Alright. There it is. Let's move to the front. Oh yes. Do that. That is a great sound. Ooh, it's down. So now I need to do this. Oh, there it is. Come on. There you go. The flimsy stuff is out. Yay, more sticky glue.
I'm starting with pillars as they are much easier to do and it prepares me better for the headliner. I'm using a drill brush attachment to clean off all deteriorated foam and glue. And then cleaner to clean and prep the surface better.
Alright, that one is clean.
Repeated the same process with the rest of them.
So I bought scissors, for which I need scissors in order to open them. What a predicament. There you go.
Cutting material to size. As mentioned before, this is a two-component adhesive. The smaller bottle is the crosslinker, and that's what provides the final strength and heat resistance. Once these two are mixed up, they need to be used within 12 hours, after which it hardens. That's why I'm measuring and mixing smaller quantities as needed.
It's 84. It's perfect. It's about 20.
I'm using an all metal spray gun to apply it evenly on both contact surfaces. Then wait for a few minutes to flash off and be dry to touch. The way this glue works is brilliant. You can put bonding surfaces on top of each other, and as long as you don't press them together, it won't stick. But as soon as you put pressure on them, the high strength bond is instant. This is how Alcantara can be stretched and shaped into the openings and curves of the bonding surface, as it won't pull back. If you need to reposition it, you can use a heat gun to soften the glue and slowly peel it back. It takes some practice to get a feel for it, but once you get a hang of it, it's rather easy and satisfying work to do. Once the main surface is covered, the excess material is trimmed off and glue applied with a small brush on the ends. Then it's stretched and glued to the back.
That's finito. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
It's copy paste for the rest of them, and also be sure to waste time looking for his scissors.
The scissors! Where did I put the f***ing scissors? Why are they all the way there? All right. Done. This glue is just fantastic. It's really, really easy to work with. You just roll on the Alcantara. Where you feel like it's going to get wrinkled, you just pull it, stretch it, and that's it. It grabs. Now that's another one done. It's just perfect.
And now onto the headliner.
So I forgot to buy the standy thingies, so I'll have to use wheels and tires that I have in my garage for today. It's not ideal, but we can move. Should do just fine.
I started cleaning up the old foam, but as you can maybe tell, this headliner was already redone once. So there was glue on top of the factory glue. I tried different methods to thoroughly clean it, including sanding, but it was going painfully slow. I tried few test spots to see how the new glue would stick, but it just peels the old glue straight off. This was not going to work, and this is not something you want to do twice.
Yep.
In order not to spend next 16 years scraping off the old glue, I got a replacement one that still had its factory fabric.
Now this is the original glue. The crappy sticky stuff. This is going into trash. Oh, this is just gonna fly everywhere. That's the majority of it.
Then I'm using a cloth and cleaner to clean and prep the surface better. In this case, the new glue will bond to the factory glue just fine, but for the parts where I know I will be stretching the material a lot, I'm using sandpaper to scruff up the surface better.
Let's lay down the Alcantara. Right, now we need to mix up the paint. It's not the paint, it's the glue.
The process is the same as with the pillars, except the material is pushed and stretched into the openings like handle pockets so that the wrinkles and creases in the finish are avoided.
Guten Morgen. There we go. And now it's time to roll with this. The pocket turned out perfect. So the idea is that you lay the Alcantara over the pocket, then you glue it all around it, and then you just push it in with your finger. That way you don't get any wrinkles. So tip top.
So the hard part is done. So far pretty perfect. No creases, all of the spots that can be seen are perfect. No wrinkles anywhere. There are a bit of wrinkles here at the dome light, but that's fine because there's always excess material here, so you cannot stretch it enough and not have any. So this goes up against the windshield, so when it's in the car you cannot even see it. The important bit are these here around the sunroof where the lights are, and there are no imperfections there. Man, I'm stoked. Absolutely stoked. Oh, I wish I had a beer now. I've surprised myself how well this turned out, given it's my second time doing this. As mentioned, I got little wrinkles in front of the dome light, as it's very difficult to avoid this due to excess material. But not as important since it goes right up against the windshield and can't be seen once in the car. The rest of it, absolutely perfect and without flaws. I also did the sunroof cover, switch button panel, and a cover for the motion sensor. This cover on the sunroof lid itself that you can't see once in the car, I just resprayed to black. Grab handles and other plastic bits I painted to black. Nothing too complicated. First thorough cleaning. Then plastic primer and semi-gloss black paint. Turned out pretty good, and as they don't see a lot of use, the finish will last. The sun visors can be redone without sewing, which is a skill I don't possess, so I sourced a pair of factory black ones. Time for reassembly. It is in. Oh yes. Please stay, don't fall. Oh yes, it's in. And that's one interior transformed. Beautiful end result, and the best part is that the headliner can even outlive the car given the quality of the material and how strong the glue is. To finish off the interior, I went for a new steering wheel. I really dislike this one as it looks old and feels like driving a bus given its size. I bought a more modern and smaller 4-spoke steering wheel from a facelift E39, and it's in mint condition. I know that the 3-spoke M Sport steering wheel is the most popular one for E38, but I'm really enjoying this one as it goes well with the whole business luxury theme of this car. Before we get on the road, quick oil change. I changed the oil last year when I bought the car, but since it's going to be used regularly now, fresh oil is in order. I also wanted to try Liqui-Moly Oil Additive and Motor Protect, which I never used before. I must admit I was pleasantly greeted with a smoother and livelier engine after putting them in. Bear in mind the oil that I drained was also Liqui-Moly, on which I barely drove since the car wasn't registered, so it's not just a side effect of the new oil. Really good stuff, and my E36 will get the same treatment. And now the moment that I've been waiting for 11 long months. Since July of last year, when I imported this car from Dubai to Germany. It is finally registered and fully insured, so I can take it on the road, specifically to the Autobahn. So let's go ahead and do exactly that. Yes, sounds like a plan. These go to the front. There you go. These are custom license plates, which cost only 10 euros when you register the car. You can't do a whole lot of customization. F is for Frankfurt, and you have to have a letter and number here. I wanted to get IL750, but that was already taken, so I settled for this. In case you're wondering what 04 and 10 means, these are seasonal plates, meaning the car is only driven between April and October. For the winter it's sleeping, so it's not insured and registered then, and then you pay less insurance and tax as well. So that is a nice thing that we have in Germany here, especially for an older classic cars like this. All right, here we go. German Autobahn. It pulls. $180. Alright, so it's 1,500 kilometers later. Since putting the plates on the car, I've been just driving it around, and I took it on 2 longer road trips with my girlfriend. To city of Colmar in France and to Bodensee, Lake Constance in the south of Germany. And the E38 is still performing flawlessly. I wanted to put some kilometers on it and make sure there's nothing wrong with it before I give my impressions. I'm no Chris Harris, but I'll give it a whirl. What this car is before anything else is comfortable. I was really concerned how Bilstein shocks and ABAC springs in the front would perform, but the ride is sublime. When driving over bumpy and uneven road on Autobahn just like now, the suspension is soaking up everything and giving me that nice comfy ride that I was going for. That being said, for a big luxury boat, it handles incredibly well. You can chuck it into a corner, it'll stay planted, and you can push it with confidence. The ride quality is really exactly what I wanted, and I'm very happy how it handles and looks. I'm used to driving my E39 M5 fast all the time, and this in comparison doesn't feel that fast. Nor do I feel the need to constantly push it. I find that its sweet spot is around 180 kilometers per hour, where you can just relax and cruise in comfort. It's not like it's slow either. The V12 in the front is a torquey engine, and whenever you need to overtake somebody, just plant your foot and off you go. This is a Japan spec car, and if I'm not mistaken, the speed limit over there is 100 kilometers per hour. So BMW fitted this example with shorter final drive to make it a lot pokier at lower speeds. And that really shows, especially when driving on back roads and overtaking other cars. It's so much fun. It just nails you to your comfortable soft leather seat and it pulls you away. Just like that. Has a nice sound as well. The top speed is, for whatever reason, electronically limited to 210 kilometers per hour. Normally, you should be able to do 250, so I'll see how difficult it is to remove that stupid thing. Top speed. It's currently sitting at 4,000 RPM, so there's plenty more to go, but the limiter kicks in. As far as sitting in here, it has everything you need. This seat is probably one of the most comfortable seats that BMW has designed. It moves in 100 different ways, so you can really dial down your perfect driving position. We have electric rear sunshade in the back, fully electrically adjustable rear seats that are also heated, cocaine tables and mirrors, James Bond controls in the rear armrest, tri-zone climate control, which is working lovely, and so on. This Alcantara that I put in, it really rounded up the whole interior and makes it that much nicer and luxurious to sit in here. 5-speed Slushmatic, which suits this car very well. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but it shifts nice and smooth. It has sport mode and you can also manually shift it. Fuel consumption, the board computer is usually showing around 10 liters, which isn't entirely accurate. If I drive at 100, 120 kilometers per hour, then I can achieve that number. But if I'm heavy ride footed, that usually jumps to 13, 14 liters per 100 kilometers, which is still not too bad for a massive 5.4 liter 12-cylinder engine in the front. On my trip from France, I averaged 13 liters, calculated by filling up to the top and then doing the math, not listening to this line thing, and I'm pretty happy with that number. So all in all, I'm incredibly happy with this car. I put so much work into it to get it to this point, and now that I'm driving it, I can proudly say that it was worth it. I wanted for this car to be a long distance machine that you can drive for countless hours and not get tired and bored, and it does that job tremendously. But I also wanted to feel sporty with nice handling when taking on back roads, and it does that tremendously brilliant as well. Starting with stunningly beautiful looks of this car to sheer driving pleasure, BMW really nailed it with E38. And the sad thing is, they don't make them like this anymore. So we gotta do what we can to save the ones that are left in existence. Just like this example. The 750iL is top of the line E38 and it just feels special. It's been a very long journey, but the next episode will be the grand finale. It's kind of hard to believe it, isn't it? This is the car that kicked off this channel and we are almost done with it. In the next video, I'll include some exterior driving shots once the paint is detailed and bumpers are painted. In the meantime, if you want to grab a t-shirt just like this one, I'll leave the link in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Now I'm going to go and enjoy this car on the back road some more.